Hi, my name is Hana Izrin binti M. Suhaimi, and in this video I will be presenting on the introduction. So the objectives of these assignments are to determine the type of risk and hazard it poses. Second, it is to create a safe working method in accordance with the hazard, and lastly, to raise safety awareness at workplace. What to achieve by doing this assignment? We want to increase awareness about hazard and danger at workplace. Other than that, we want to guarantee that risks are always effectively managed. Let's move on to the definition of HIRAC. HIRAC stands for Hazard Identification, Risk Assessment, and Risk Control. So hazard is a source or circumstance that could lead to environmental destruction, property damage, or human injury or poor health. While hazard identification means identification of the undesirable events that cause the hazard to manifest and the method by which those undesirable events may take place. Next is risk, which means combination of probability of an event within a certain time frame or conditions, as well as the extent to which it causes harm to the environment, property, or people's health. Risk assessment is the evaluation of health and safety concerns brought on by workplace hazards. And risk control is the complete process involved in detecting hazards, evaluating risk, implementing controls, and monitoring results. There are two advantages of HIRAC, which are able to minimize workplace accidents and can give a proper solution to eliminate hazard. There are two reasons on why we need to do HIRAC, which are to be aware of potential threats to our safety and well-being, and to prevent the identified hazard from spreading and becoming catastrophic.
Hi, my name is Nur Aibi Fatini binti Umar Amran, and we will proceed to the table 1, which is task and activity table. Firstly, pouring of chemical solution directly in test tube without using funnel. The hazard is chemical and the risk is liquid may spill. The existing risk control for this activity is safe work practice, and for the recommended control measures is appropriate supervision to assist postgraduate students in identifying possible hazards. Secondly, shaking liquid in test tube without cap and inappropriate way. The hazard is chemical and it may cause chemical spillage and broken test tube. As for recommended control measure, postgraduate student needs to be trained the appropriate way to shake chemical solution. Thirdly, smelling and inhale chemical solution without wearing mask. The hazard is chemical and may cause difficulty in breathing. Existing risk control for this task is the PPE, and for the recommended is to provide mask for them and make sure the mask is tied up. Fourth, adjusting such with an incorrect height. The hazard is fume hood and it may expose to hazardous vapors, gases, and powders. The existing risk control for this activity is safe work or SOP, and initial training on safe work procedure should be offered to them. Fifth, removing plugs without using gripping device. The hazard is hot plates and it may cause skin burns and electrical shock. As for recommended control measure, postgraduate students need to use thermal gloves or tongs. Next, labeling of chemical solution is not present. The hazard is chemical and it may cause severe skin burns and explosion when heated. And the recommended is to label the chemical solution properly and place it at specified place. Lastly, placing containers of chemicals everywhere. The hazard is flawed and it may cause leaking. The existing risk control for this activity is housekeeping, and for the recommended control measure is to arrange container of chemical in an organized manner.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Siti Shaida, and I will explain about table 2, which is the probability or likelihood value. This value range from the highest, which is 5, that most likely to occur, to the lowest, which is 1, that is practically impossible to occur. From the activity that we observe, we got 2 activities that has the highest likelihood value, and none of the activity has the lowest likelihood value. Next is table 3, which is the severity or consequence values. These values also range from the highest to the lowest. The highest value is 5, which is catastrophic, that involve various deaths, and the lowest is 1, which is negligible, that involve that injury not cause the incapability to work after the treatment. From the activity that we observe, we got 2 activities that has the lowest value, and we got 2 activities that has the highest severity value.
My name is Zuhaida binti Zulkarnain. In this part, I'm going to present about table 4, which is the risk metric table, and table 5, risk value table. For risk metric table, we can see the row is the severity and the column is the likelihood. This severity and likelihood is divided to certain value of number in the range of 1 to 5. For the severity, the highest is catastrophic, next is fatal, major, minor, and the lowest is negligible. For the likelihood, the highest is the most likely, possible, conceivable, remote, and the lowest one is the inconceivable. Risk value can be calculated by using the formula of likelihood times severity, and the value is categorized to 3 levels, which is low, medium, and high by its range. Okay, next is table 5, which is risk value table. We can see in this table there is 3 different categories, which is high risk, medium risk, and low risk. In the range 15 to 25 is categorized as high risk, which is require immediate action to control the hazard as detailed in the hierarchy of control. From the 5 to 12 range is categorized as medium risk, require a planned approach to controlling the hazard and applies temporary measure if required. For the range 1 to 4, which is categorized as low risk, may be considered as acceptable and further reduction may not be necessary. Okay, this is the detailed table for table number 5, which is risk value table. We can see for the task number 3, smelling and inhale chemical solution without wearing mask is categorized under high risk with a risk value of 16, while 4 others are categorized as medium risk.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Siti Samina Aswa binti Muhammad Khalil. Next, I will explain a little bit about table C, which is the word or task list table. So as we can see, this table explains the length of time that will be taken by the responsible party to resolve the danger in the laboratory. So in this list, we can see that we have high, medium, and low risk. So for high risk, we can see the risk value, and we will make a decision based on that. For the high risk value in this work activity is task 3. We can see the person in charge is a science officer who solve hazards such as preparing masks for postgraduate student and making sure all the apparatus or machine that can cause hazard must be done within a week. Next, we look at the risk value of the remaining tasks. We find that all the work activity are medium risk, which is that we can plan better and more carefully for a period of time in 1 month to 3 months. And the person in charge is the lab assistant who is responsible for ensuring that the lab is in good condition. In this list, does not show low risk, but for hazard like this, it is also important to control, and this can be resolved within a period of 6 months or more times.
Hello, my name is Nushaza Nadira and I will explain about table 7, which is risk and task remarks. So in this part, the tasks are arranged according to the highest risk value to the lowest risk value. So for the first one is the task is at high risk. So an immediate action must be taken by using PPE, whereby the students need to use masks every time dealing with chemical solution and before entering the lab. So a little description before moving on to the next task is starting from task 2 to the last task is at medium risk. So at medium risk, there is no need to reduce immediately, but the risk must nevertheless be minimized. So for the second one, the SOP must be taken, whereby the basic training on safe work practices must be put into practice by applying an appropriate height. Third one is an action whereby the SOP should be applied as the chemical solution should be appropriately labeled and stored in the designated area. Next is the action must be taken whereby the students need to put the chemical containers in an organized and priced location. Moving on to the next task is the application of thermal or gloves as a part of PPE is required. Next is to reduce the possibility of splashing, safe work practices including implementing funnel must be used. And lastly, safe work practice must be used to demonstrate on how to properly shape the chemical solution to prevent the chemical splash as well as to minimize the broken glass injuries.
Next, we're moving to the Standard Operating Procedure or SOP. For the regulatory requirement, First, before beginning any operation, plan appropriate safety precaution and the arrangement of the equipment. Please read, understand and follow the appropriate standard operating procedure at all times in the laboratory. Second, everyone, including visitor, must wear personal protective equipment (PPE) at all times. Third, ensure that the laboratory has appropriate air circulation to handle the chemical. Fourth, ensure that assistance is available in the event of emergency. Laboratory workers should not leave from the assigned work schedule without prior approval from the laboratory supervisor. Necessary personal protective equipment (PPE) must be available and used consistently and correctly, such as laboratory coat, gloves, safety glasses, chemical splash goggles, face shield, and protective boots. Required training. All laboratory workers who work with hazardous chemical must undergo chemical safety training. Workers' responsibilities. First, maintain laboratory facilities and equipment in safe, code-compliant operational condition. Second, all chemical containers must be properly labeled with the full name of the chemical and indicate any special hazard in the label. Third, keep detailed records of the amounts of those chemicals stored, used, as well as the dates and the names of user. Fourth, laboratory equipment should be regularly inspected, maintained, and serviced on the schedule. And the last one is glassware should be handled and stored with care to avoid damage. Specific sequence of steps to follow. First, read through the procedure before conducting any laboratory activity. Second, understand the experiment technique. Be aware of the evaluated risks. Third, follow the established scientific protocol guideline without skipping any part. Okay, last is the emergency procedure. If the fire alarm sounds in the laboratory, follow all institutional firefighting and separation policies. Extinguish all Bunsen burner and equipment flames. Inspect the restroom and other places that may have limited auditory or visual indication of an alarm and immediately leave the laboratory in the nearest exit.